Saudi Arabia is a desert country with no permanent rivers or lakes and very little rainfall. Water is scarce and extremely valuable, and with the country's rapid growth, the demand for water is increasing. Of the total water consumption in Saudi Arabia, the agricultural sector accounts for nearly 87% of the total water use, and therefore any attempt that overlooks this sector will not help in improving the sustainability of the country's water resources. So in this video, we're gonna find out why a lack of water can destroy Saudi Arabia. This will definitely shock you, so make sure you watch to the end. Saudi Arabia is the third biggest consumer of water per capita in the world after the US and Canada. The kingdom has implemented a series of measures to rationalize water consumption as part of its Vision 2030 program, with the aim of reducing consumption by 24% in 2022 and by up to 43% by the end of the decade. Aquifers are a major source of water in Saudi Arabia. There are vast underground reservoirs of water. In the 1970s, the government undertook a major effort to locate and map such aquifers and estimate their capacity. As a result, it was able to drill tens of thousands of deep tube wells in the most promising areas for both urban and agricultural use. Another major source of water is the sea. This is done through desalination, a process that produces potable water from brackish seawater. Saudi Arabia is the world's largest producer of desalinated water. The Saline Water Conversion Corporation (SWCC) operates 27 desalination stations that produce more than 3 million cubic meters a day of potable water. These plants provide more than 70% of the water used in cities, as well as a sizable portion of the needs of industry. They are also a major source of electric power generation. The main topographic features of the Arabian Peninsula are the western, southwestern, and southeastern mountain ridges, as well as the central plateau. The mountain ridges divide numerous moderate-sized drainage basins that empty towards the Red Sea, Arabian Sea, and the Gulf of Oman, as well as larger basins that drain towards the central plateau and, in some cases, continue eastward towards the Gulf. Generally, the coastal drainage basins have steep reliefs and narrow coastal plains compared with a mild slope and large catchment area of the inland region. The remainder of the peninsula is characterized by low relief and poor drainage. Farmers rely heavily on groundwater pumped from wells from California and the US Midwest to Morocco, Spain, and much of India. Increasing populations, including those migrating from rural, infrastructure-lacking areas to job-supplying cities, and the negative effects of climate change conspire to pressure groundwater supplies. From the sky, the Saudi landscape is checkered with green, showing farm fields made possible by irrigation. Enormous buildings nearby house tens of thousands of milk cows whose drinking and cooling needs are prodigious. The water to perform these miracles in the desert is pumped from far below the surface from aquifers filled thousands of years ago, when the climate in Saudi Arabia was much wetter. Water in the most improbable place gave the nation the hope to achieve its long-sought goal of feeding itself rather than importing food from other countries. However, this solution has a limited lifespan, and the end is near. Oil has been a critical resource for a long time. However, this is beginning to change. World demand for oil is now about 92 million barrels a day. Altogether, including Saudi Arabia, OPEC can supply about 40% of this demand. By itself, the kingdom can meet about 13 to 14% of it. Saudi Arabia is the only oil producer that can ramp up output to fill an immediate supply shortfall. On pretty short notice, it can add a couple of million barrels a day, about 2% to global oil supplies. In 2018, crude oil made up 33% of the world's annual primary energy consumption. Today, oil still has a relatively low degree of substitution, particularly with respect to technology, transport sector, and chemicals and transport. In Saudi Arabia, there are only two sources of water, the sea and deep wells, says Ahmed Safar al-Asmari, who manages one of Bahrain's two factories in Riyadh. We're in the central region, so there are only deep wells here, perhaps not surprising for someone who makes livings selling water. Asmari professes to be untroubled about the future of Saudi Arabia's water supply. Studies show water in some reserves can stand consumption for another 150 years, he says. In Saudi Arabia, we have many reserves. We have no problems in this area. The capital, Riyadh, located in the heart of the country, is supplied with desalinated water pumped from the Persian Gulf over a distance of 467 kilometers. Water is provided almost for free to residential users. Despite improvements, service quality remains poor, for example, in terms of continuity of supply. Another challenge is weak institutional capacity and governance, reflecting general characteristics of the public sector in Saudi Arabia. Dams are used to capture surface water after frequent flash floods. More than 200 dams collect an estimated 16 billion cubic feet of runoff annually in their reservoirs. Some of the largest of these dams are located in Wadi Jazan, Wadi Fatima, Wadi Bisha, and Najran. This water is used primarily for agriculture and is distributed through thousands of miles of irrigation canals and ditches to vast tracts of fertile land that were previously fallow. Total municipal water use in Saudi Arabia has been estimated at 2.28 cubic kilometers per year in 2010, or 13% of total water use. Demand has been growing at the rate of 4.3% per annum, average for the period 1999 to 2004. In tandem with urban population growth around 3%, water supply is usually not metered, neither at the source nor the distribution point. It's tentatively estimated that the average water consumption for those connected to the network is about 235 liters per capita per day, a level lower than in the United States. Water reuse in Saudi Arabia is growing, both at the level of buildings and at the level of cities. In Riyadh, 50 million cubic meters per year is pumped over 40 kilometers, 25 miles, and 60-meter elevation to irrigate 15,000 hectares of wheat, fodder, orchards, and palm trees. Saudi Arabia's desalination plants produce about 31.5 million cubic meters of contaminated water each day. That volume of liquid, most of which is pumped back into the ocean, is equivalent to about 20 million barrels of oil a day, or double the amount of crude it currently produces. The kingdom is tendering 7 desalination and wastewater projects as it tries to alleviate the impacts of depleted aquifers. While countries can treat the toxic brine to remove chemicals and heavy metals, those processes are expensive and require even more energy, according to the report. Saudi Arabia, one of the world's driest countries, has announced a national program for rationalizing water consumption in the kingdom, setting ambitious targets that include slashing usage by nearly 24% by next year and some 43% by the end of the next decade. The Qatra program promotes the importance of water conservation, proposes methods for rationalizing industrial and residential consumption, and educates individuals on the importance of modifying their own water usage. Saudi Arabia has initiated 26 water, agricultural, and environmental projects in the northeast of the country, in the region of Tabuk, reports Trade Arabia. The new plan is worth over 2.5 billion Saudi Riyal, nearly $667 million, and includes 4 desalination plants worth a total of 1 billion Saudi Riyal, $266 million, as well as 5 water transmission systems, also valued at 1 billion Saudi Riyal. The launch of the 26 water projects was inaugurated by Prince Fahd bin Sultan bin Abdulaziz, governor of the Tabuk region, in a ceremony that took place in Tabuk. The governor also announced during the ceremony 7 projects for developing water resources worth 100 million Saudi Riyal and 4 projects dedicated to water services in the region valued at 84 million Saudi Riyal, $22 million. Let us know your opinion in the comment section below. This was all for today. Hope you liked the video. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stay safe, and we'll be back soon with another video.